4 of Concentrated Podcast presents Heralds of the MCU. I'm Maria, and I am joined by my 2 co-hosts, Eric.
Good day.
And Manira.
Hi.
You guys didn't like
today,
my beaker face?
No, your beaver face is doing a lot. So listen, guys, we're here to discuss episode 5 of Disney Plus's series WandaVision, titled On a Very Special Episode. And this episode, indeed, was very special. We have a lot to get to, as this episode was just jam-packed. But first, before we do that, let's get overall thoughts on the episode as a whole. Manira, I always love starting with you because you're always so excited about just about everything that happens in these episodes. So what was your take overall?
I feel like I say it every week, every episode, but I loved it. This was amazing, and the things that happened here really impact the MCU going forward, and that is extremely exciting. So I'm all in with a bag of chips for this series. I love it. I'm gonna be real sad when it goes.
Yeah, I also I don't want it to end.
No.
Actually, I feel like you guys can keep this going forever, but
No, you definitely can't.
Shut up, Derek. Yes, you can.
No, I feel like the shows. I'm 100%. I was a little weary at first, how are they going to make this work? Taking it from movies to shows, but this proves you can do these forms of long form, movies to show, and they're I think keeping it a half hour is making it more desirable because I know, especially watching some of the Netflix, the Defenders and Daredevil, and especially the worst ones fucking Iron Fist, 45 to 50 minutes you're dragging, especially when you're doing 10 to 13 episodes. This is 9 episodes, each one is 26 minutes, not including the credits. So I'm refreshed every episode. I'm jazzed. I'm ready to hit go and jump right into the next one immediately. So I think this is a superior way to do it.
You brought up those shows. Do you think that they learned their lesson with those shows?
I think
what worked
some
and took what didn't?
Some part of it they did, and I know that if the rumors are to be believed, some of those characters we might see again. And based on how this episode went, I think some of those might actually be true. Okay. I don't want to give credence to rumor though, because you know how I feel about rumors.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like there's, to Eric's point, I really like the short format, but I hate it at the same time. But it's the right type of hate, right? Because it's at the end of every episode, I am no, it can't be over. I need so much more. And it's
they've done a really good job of leaving you on those cliffhangers.
Yeah.
Every episode. There hasn't been an episode yet that's ended that I'm oh, that was cool, now let me go about my day. Every episode is shit, it's done. I'm going to watch the credits again, even though I know that there's not going to be anything in the credits.
Yeah, I keep watching the credits.
Yep.
Maybe there will be at the season finale. To tie
I would hope so.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
I think for the season finale, it would make sense to tie into the next set of shows.
Especially if she's supposed to be a major part of Doctor Strange too.
Exactly. Well, because there's so much to unpack, I think it'll be a little easier to break this episode down by separating what happened outside of Westview and then what's happening inside. So I think I want to start with probably my current favorite character in Monica Rambeau. So let's talk about Monica.
Monica.
I knew he was going to do that. Eric, I'm going to start with you. What were your takes on what was going on with her this episode?
One, she's super smart. We kind of got that from her analysis of her pants, and I think the big takeaway here is that her and Captain Marvel got some issues. I don't think Captain Marvel has been back to Earth, and I mean it makes sense because she came back after the blip, so she hasn't seen her. But at the same time, she was gone for 20 plus years. So I think her and Captain Marvel have some issues that will be worked out a bit more in Captain Marvel 2 because she's confirmed to be in it. So clearly she's harboring some issues there, which is to be expected. Yeah, she also is starting to question her command, and I think we can all figure out at this point that Tyler is he's not who he says he is. I wouldn't be surprised if he's Hydra.
Okay.
Yeah, Manira, because I know you've got some thoughts, so let's hit it. What do you think about this?
Okay, so she knows that she has powers, right? The fact that she did not want a double scan, and when they said there's nothing there when she was getting scanned, she just breezed right past that. So she knows she has powers, right?
I think she has an inclination, but like,
Okay.
again, knowing who her mom was, knowing that, also, she mentions a aerospace engineer.
Yes.
I'm
Who is
willing
that?
to bet it is one of the Skrulls from Captain Marvel, the
Okay.
one that hooked up the Quinjet so it can go into space. I can't remember if he died or not in Captain Marvel, but I know there was a bunch of Skrulls that were in that crew. So
The guy. Okay, so you mean Talos's right-hand man?
yeah, his
I
tech
thought
guy.
that
I
Jude
thought
Law-
what's his name shot him.
I thought that he did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if he died or not, but
But the girl. Sorry. It could be, now that you said Skrull, he's dead, but Talos's daughter is not.
Yep.
So it could be her.
That's what I was thinking.
True. Yeah, that makes sense. And they clearly they're all on Earth because we
Right.
saw them all in Spider-Man Far From Home.
Right.
Well, Talos and his wife,
Right.
who are now doubling Nick Fury and Maria Hill.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And I would assume she's, with her mom helping start Sword, she probably started it with the Skrulls, help because they have that space technology. So I'm pretty sure Monica
space
still
technology
knows.
and also space knowledge.
Right.
Yeah. You have to think, like,
She's been up there.
what? Right. She's
Yeah.
been up there, and what the hell do we as human beings know about what's actually going
Right.
on intergalactically without the Skrulls' help? So,
Well, a lot more now, thanks to the events of like Thor and
Right.
Endgame and Infinity War. But yeah, I have a feeling maybe we'll get a glimpse of some Skrulls coming soon. Probably in the next episode.
I also enjoy the fact that she keeps like hammering home Wanda is not a threat or a terrorist.
Yeah.
It's grief. Because, and she knows a little bit about grief. She has just been thrown into the fact that her mother is no longer in this world and was taken while she was also...
And she was
no
away
longer-
for 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So...
She never got a chance to say goodbye.
Right. So she knows that grief can make you do a lot of things and take you out of the person that you are. So I really enjoy, even when we get to Wanda coming outside of Westview, she still was talking to Wanda like, let me help you. Like,
right. I am your ally.
Right.
I'm not your enemy.
And
Yeah.
you know that. And Wanda did know that. Like, Wanda had her help her with her babies, had her deliver the babies, not Agnes. Agnes didn't come over. Agnes was right outside, but Agnes wasn't brought over. It was Monica. Why? Do you know what I mean?
We definitely got a lot more insight on Agnes this episode as well.
Yeah, I want to...
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I want to add about Monica is, well, if her powers manifest, which I think they will, Eric, I'm just going to give you a big yeah, because when I said something last week, you were like, no. But here we are seeing yet another example that she's clearly not just some random person that came back from the blip. Like, there's something going on there. Also, I think that we as viewers, obviously we know Hayward ain't shit, but like she did a really great job of showing how much she is starting to question her command. Like in every interaction, it wasn't just no, like I think Wanda is not evil, like she's not a terrorist, blah blah blah. It was like, the fuck are you talking about? Like she was literally looking at him like, I can't believe you're going down this path. Like, there's, for as much as she's got beef with Captain Marvel, clearly she's not okay with Hayward either. And I really appreciated that you saw it and it didn't go down the typical, well, I guess I gotta follow a chain of command. Like, she's like, no,
Well,
fuck
he's
that.
also
like,
hiding things from her.
Right.
Like, he had this knowledge that Scarlet Witch had stolen the Vision's body, but he didn't bring it up to anybody until 9 days later. He had seen her before those 9 days.
Right. I think it's because her mother created Sword. And this is not the Sword that her mother created.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very jarring when he does things or they're as militarized as they are.
Right, because that's not what Sword is about.
Yeah, they're focusing
Yep.
on the weapons.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a really great point. So switching gears, because I do want to make sure that we've got time to go through everybody on the outside that we want to talk about. Manira called them the trio, and I kind of love it, and I'm going to stick with that name for them because that's really what they're becoming. Who we're referring to here is Agent Wu, Dr. Darcy, and Monica. So looking at them working together this episode, Manira, I'm going to start with you on this one. What were your thoughts about their interactions, their bonding, like how this is coming together?
They are our new archetypes for us going in phase 4. They are the people that you and the three of us would identify with as
I would say Darcy is clearly the Mary Sue of this. Like she's watching it the way we're watching it.
Right. And Agent Wu, while he used to be the type of person that was follow the letter, buy the book, all this other stuff, now his interaction with Ant-Man and whatnot has kind of changed him a little bit. Mm-hmm. He's softened. This wouldn't be, for me, it doesn't remind me of the same Agent Wu that was telling
he was trying to enforce the Sokovia Accords more than anything.
Right. Now,
I do like the fact that he seems just like a genuinely good person. He's like, I don't like to speak ill of people.
And now he knows the Accords back and forth. So he will be a wealth of knowledge going forward. But I also see, for some reason in the back of my mind, I see him as leaving the Force. But
I would like to see him become the new Agent Coulson, maybe leave the FBI and go to whatever the new SHIELD is.
Yeah, no, that would be.
Or maybe join SWORD proper.
Yes, I enjoy them together. I enjoy them putting their heads together and trying to, because they, like I said, don't see Wanda as a threat, but see her as a person that has saved them on multiple occasions and needs help. We need to figure out why this is happening.
He even mentions that, maybe she fought them originally in Age of Ultron, but she later gained their trust and became an Avenger.
Right. And I like that all three of them will probably at some point come together and start trying to figure out why Hayward is the way that he is. They may be Hayward's downfall, I feel. Yeah.
Eric, do you have any additional thoughts on the trio?
No, I'm all for it. Like I said, I'm very much looking forward to seeing Monica show up in other stuff. Especially, I know she'll be in Captain Marvel too, but I'm hoping. I know Brie Larson has talked about recently that she's working out and getting ready to get in shape for them to start filming Captain Marvel 2. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping that Monica shows up in Miss Marvel and is kind of the bridge between the Marvels, since both of them are confirmed in Captain Marvel 2. I would like to see Monica show up and kind of be the influence that she needs.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic. I think for me overall, I'm very much like Manira in this. I just love them. I love their chemistry. I love how they're working together. I love the fact that you see the wheels turning in every interaction with them.
Yeah.
To your point, and getting into the next person we're going to talk about.
I also love them talking, giving Darcy more to do. Yes. In the Thor movies, she was an intern, but she was always kind of ditzy. She's very much the comic relief, but in this, she's still the comic relief, but she's the one solving all the problems.
Yes.
She figured out the cosmic radiation. She figured out they brought her in because she is now an expert, and that's just growth.
Fan. She's a fan. She literally said
that's how you
Monica,
write characters across things. Give them growth.
Yeah.
She is now Dr. Darcy.
Yeah.
Put some respect on her name.
And she got her coffee.
Yeah. She did finally get her
I was
coffee.
a little upset when she dropped her oodles and noodles. I was like, oh, that cup of noodles look fresh too.
All right. Well, I think this is a great point to transition because, I think, Manira, you made the point, and I agree with you, that the trio will likely be the downfall of Tyler Hayward. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what's going on with him this episode, because I think that start? I know, right? For a lot of our listeners and viewers, we've kind of hinted that we think something is off with him, but there's no way, in my opinion, you walk away from this week's episode not that dude's fucked up. Mm-hmm. So, Eric, I'm going to start with you on this one. what did you think about Hayward's actions this episode?
I'm not surprised by them. Mm-hmm. He's clearly hiding something. He hid the knowledge that he knew that Wanda had taken Vision's body. Mm-hmm. He, hid that on the drone that Monica sent in to observe Scarlet Witch and her family. He hid that he had weaponized it and put fucking missiles on it and tried to assassinate her. Mm-hmm. He knows a lot more than he's giving away, and he probably has ulterior motives. He probably wants the Vision's body back, because while he said that they were holding Vision's body, they were clearly disassembling it and probably trying to weaponize it.
It was hooked up to stuff.
Yeah.
It was separated and hooked up to things.
It wasn't just in a vault somewhere like it should have been. There were engineers working on it, probably trying to reverse engineer it.
Yeah. The narrative that he was peddling with her being a terrorist and her in Sokovia, the Largos thing, the Germany thing, all of those, to then in her fucking face say, oh, the missile was a precaution, you can hardly blame us for that. When she said, no, I think I can, I was like, yeah, you sure fucking can, because they created a whole fucking contract about you. Yeah. So yeah, no, fuck him. Fuck him on his whole entire life.
I'm gonna drop a little. I'm gonna put on my invisible tinfoil hat here and jump into some narrative territory. I think he is framing Wanda as the bad guy, because I feel like through the Avengers or something, we'll probably find out later, that Wanda got note that they were experimenting on Vision's body, and that's why she broke in and took it.
Because when she was telling Monica, like, you don't have anything that I want, I have everything I want, her Vision turned directly to him and said, and I will never let anyone take it a fucking again. And I was like, oh, so he took it. So he took it from you. Fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like she broke in, took the body because she knew what he was doing. And he even mentions Vision's living will. Right. But clearly you guys are experimenting on it.
He doesn't. Jimmy does. Jimmy talks about the Accords, how it's against the Accords, and then also against his living will. And I'm like, well, first of all, when did Vision make this living will?
Even Jimmy says it. He's like, yeah, it's against his living will. And Jimmy's like, oh, he didn't want to be a weapon.
Right. Mm-hmm. But when did he do that?
Well, I mean, he's a synthezoid, so it's probably in his memory banks. I'm pretty sure somebody would, like, maybe during Infinity War, while what's her name, Black Panther's sister was working on it, maybe he figured, I might not make it through this, let me put something down on paper. I'm hoping we see it kind of like how Tony Stark left the little hologram when he died.
I was thinking that because Vision signed the
Shuri.
Accords.
I don't know why I couldn't say Shuri.
I think that it was an addendum in the Accords.
Possibly. That makes a lot of sense, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Vision, while he is a synthezoid, he still has free will.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that probably makes the most sense in this. I think the other thing about Hayward in this episode that I found interesting, and I don't know if you guys noticed it, I felt like there was very much a shift in his personality from when we first met him a couple episodes back to now. Within his relationship with Monica. So, like, initially, he very much tried to come off as a friend, as somebody that was caring, blah, blah, blah. And you see in this episode, he has become completely cold, completely calculating, and very much like this person who is basically trying to manipulate the responses to questions into the situation to fit his narrative, which is very different than how he was initially introduced if you took him at face value.
Oh, yeah, he was supposed to be the nice guy. Oh, welcome back. You've been blipped away. Oh, in the 5 years you've been gone, I've been fucking up your mom's company. But yeah, let me send you on this bullshit errand so you get out of my face a little bit more.
Well, we had never seen him in action, and now we do.
Now he's here, and he's trying to run the show now that he knows that's where Wanda went. Because I feel like he literally sent her off on this wild goose chase to New Jersey because he didn't want her poking around in the things that he's been doing to Sword while she's been gone.
Exactly.
That low-key turned around and has become full circle in what he was doing in Sword.
Mm-hmm. The chickens have come home to roost, as they say.
Question for the group. We have never actually had Wanda be called Scarlet Witch in the MCU.
I feel like in the Avengers they mentioned it like within the team someone called her witch.
I don't think so. because he was leading to that with Jimmy Woo. He was
Yeah,
saying,
he was
no,
like, does she
doesn't
have a fancy
any,
nickname?
Right, no nicknames, no funny code names, no nothing. And Jimmy's like looking at him like, no. Like, I feel like he wanted him, if she did, he would have said Scarlet Witch, like,
I
say
think
her name.
Jimmy might not know it. Like, he might not know her alias because, you know, he only knows what he's seen through the FBI and, like, through the actual events. We also don't know if Jimmy was blipped away during the 5 years.
I don't
pretty
feel
sure
like he
wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't think he was. But here's the thing: I think that Manira is onto something on this with Hayward pushing that fact, because I also don't recall anyone ever actually referring to her as Scarlet Witch. We just know because she's Wanda. And on top of that, it would, if in the Accords, because I'm sure in the Accords they had everybody's real name and code name. So if it were in the Accords, Wu would know about it, and he clearly doesn't.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's been mentioned. And it makes sense that Hayward is trying to push this narrative because in culture, right, witches are bad. And so if he can push to give her this name, it just further feeds that narrative that he is creating.
Yeah.
That the that Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, is an enemy. She's a terrorist. She's trying to kill innocent people, ...
So wait.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. One more thing. So he says that he just got authorization to show what happened 9 days ago. Who do we think he got that authorization from? Because I have a theory.
I think, okay, I'd be interested in hearing your theory because I think that's bullshit. I think that he is saying he just got authorization, but he knew damn well what he was doing by hiding that footage. And this was the right time and the right moment to bring it up to try to paint Wanda in this light. So what's your theory on that?
I think that it is Thunderbolt Ross. I think that because he had her he had Clint, he had everybody that didn't sign the Accords. I think he's still trying to collect the Avengers that he once had.
I like that theory.
I actually,
but I feel like at the same time, like after Endgame, maybe Thunderbolt Ross isn't in as much control as he was once.
No. I listen, then after Endgame, after everyone, the Avengers that didn't sign the Accord, all of them helped bring everybody back. Why are we still quoting the Accords? Why aren't they dissolved? You guys couldn't help. You guys didn't bring back. You guys couldn't fucking fight Thanos. You guys couldn't bring anything back. You needed those people. Why are we still quoting something that was supposed to hinder their powers and their superness? Why are we still quoting that if that's not still in effect and the people that didn't sign it aren't still wanted?
I also do. I enjoyed the brief moment of like MCU fanboyness that Jimmy and the three had when they were like, "Oh, well, Wanda could have beaten Thanos on her own," and Jimmy's like, "Well,
she did. Like that bitch was going."
Jimmy's like, "Oh, well, Captain Marvel probably could have too." She's like, "Well, whatever about her. This is about Wanda."
We hate her.
Yeah. Get on board. You can't sit with us.
Right. we don't like her right now. No,
yeah,
right.
I think her big beef is that, you know, she left in the 90s and hasn't been back since, and she hasn't seen her since.
All right, so I think we've adequately kind of covered what's going on with the folks on the outside. So now let's get into the inside, and we've got to start with Wanda, because, woof.
There's a lot going on with her.
Manira, like, listen, I know you love crazy.
I do.
What in the entire hell is going on with your girl right now?
I think that her perfect reality is falling apart, seam by seam. I don't think that Vision is supposed to be as sentient as he is, and that is hurting the reality. Also, I don't think that she thought this baby situation all the way through, because her powers don't work on those twins, and they're a fucking problem.
Yeah, I think the twins are legitimately constructed out of her powers.
Yes.
Because they're not following her rules.
I would say, Eric, don't get into because we're gonna have a whole conversation about the twins.
Yeah.
But I really would like us to dive a little bit more into the point that Manira made about it now seems like she didn't think some of these things through. And so now she is really, really struggling to keep control.
Yeah.
Well, it also makes a little bit more sense now that Vision is kind of snapping out of it because we now know that it is legitimately Vision's body. Like, she didn't recreate him out of nothing. And that also makes sense as to, in the previous episode, we saw kind of the zombie Vision, which I think that's really what he's walking around as.
Yeah.
But she is projecting him back to his full lifefulness.
Do we think that we're going to see a scene where she is actually putting him back together?
I think we might get like a flashback of her like using her powers to kind of bring the body together, because clearly it was in pieces.
I don't know
and
if I'm ready for that.
Using her reality perception to kind of animate him again.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm okay with that. I was not okay when I saw that he was in pieces and they had plugged him up to things. I very much was like, no, go get him. Like, fuck them, go get him. And anybody that stands in your fucking way, bye. Sorry.
Yeah, as I say, we also see she didn't hurt anyone to get him.
No. Nobody stopped her.
She
That's
broke
the
some
thing.
glass.
Nobody stopped her.
Yeah,
Why
I'm pretty
is
sure
that?
she used her powers to kind of like tell everybody look away. But she broke glass. She didn't like. She could have thrown people out of the way with her powers. She could have.
She could have.
She could have blipped people out of existence.
Right.
Because
and
clearly,
in fairness to her,
yeah,
I would have understood. Like, you're experimenting on my dead love.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
as Monica brings to our attention, like, she is not creating things. She is warping reality. Like, she made that when she went in with a Kevlar vest, she was basically modifying the molecules of that vest and made it into Geraldine's wardrobe.
Right.
So her pants were 87% Kevlar.
Do you want to talk about Agnes here? Because, I mean, for the most part, she seems like she is part of Wanda's.
I feel like Agnes.
I was actually going to say once we finish talking about Wanda, before we got into Vision, I did want to talk about Agnes.
I do also like that Wanda is like, she knows she's in control. Because when she starts getting into the argument with Vision towards the end, she tries to roll the credits as if that's going to stop what's going on.
But okay, so here's the thing. When she does that and they're sitting down and they're talking, after they have done their like standoff, she sits down and she says, and I believe her, I don't know how this started.
Yeah.
I believe her fully.
I do too.
That's where it comes into, like, someone is pulling the strings behind the scenes.
I think it's a combination of the grief and someone pulling the strings, because, like, all three of us, for our viewers and listeners who may not know, like, all three of us have lost a parent. And when you sit back and you think about the grief that comes from that, for me at least, there are days that I literally just don't even remember, right after my mom passed. Like, I don't remember what happened that day, even though I know that I did a lot of things that day in preparation, for her homegoing or whatever. And so I love kind of hearkening back to Monica continuing to push the narrative, like, this is grief. It is so important because it then ties into Wanda sitting there saying, like, I don't know how this started.
Yeah.
And she probably doesn't, because she has lost everyone that she loves and has never really had time to process. I mean, technically this show starts right after she, like, days within her losing Vision. She has had zero time to process that.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention her being blipped back into existence. So it's not like she had the 5 years like everyone else.
Yeah. Which I feel like is why Monica gets her. They were both flipped. They both had very, very big losses. While Wanda saw her loss, the actual act, Monica was thrown into it. Well, given the information and then deal with it.
Yeah. She came back to reality and fought Thanos, and then, while everyone else is grieving Tony Stark, like, no one is like, hey, what about your loss?
Right. Well, I mean, but if you think about it, like,
and then of course she finds
really
out that they're
bangs with her
experimenting
like that?
on her dead, her dead, love.
Yeah, the only people that really, for the most part, are like Wanda friends is
Clint.
Clint had to deal with the fact that his whole family blipped. and
Yeah.
everything that he dealt with that, and then he
And
had
everything that
back.
he did, like he has
Right.
to comes to terms. Like I hope they talk about that in the Hawkeye show. Like he did a lot of bad shit during those
Yeah.
5 years.
Grief
He
makes you do a lot of
essentially
bad shit, doesn't
he
it?
became an assassin.
Yeah. So there's that. We had she was part of the Falcon, um, Black Widow, Cap threesome. Falcon's dealing with Cap dying or going off to be
Well,
old Cap.
Cap retired,
Right. And so he was the leader of their
And
group.
Widow's dead.
Right.
and Widow's dead.
And
Yeah,
Widow's dead.
So,
So
yeah.
she literally, like, she has lost everything.
Yeah.
And so I really, really appreciated that scene, because to me, as someone who is lost, if there was ever a moment that I connected with this character, it was that moment, right? Like
Yeah.
on a personal level, because I could understand exactly what she meant by, like, I don't even know how this started.
At all.
Yeah. And it's crazy. So let's move on, because I think that in talking about Wanda, and we kind of mentioned it, and I want to circle back to it, it's important to talk about Agnes, because we saw a very different Agnes this episode than what we had seen.
yeah.
Eric.
She breaks character.
Yeah. Like full stop.
She breaks character because Vision broke character. But at the same time, like we finally found out that she legitimately she has free will. Like she knows what's going on. I feel like Agnes may, as opposed to being like, everyone is saying she's Agatha Harkness and that she's, another witch and helping. I feel like she might be an actress, because she had all of the things. She had the lingo down. She's like, hey, do you want me to take that from the top? Do you want me to, and she's just waiting to improv. I think she might be an actress that is like working for, I still think she's working for whoever is really pulling the strings, but like Wanda knows that she is part of her world and not, a resident of Westview.
Although we did finally see her house.
We saw her azaleas and a car.
Yeah.
Don't do this. We still have not seen that husband that she talks about every time.
Yeah.
We
She
still
mentioned
got
Ralph
Ralph.
again.
No. Question for the group. Agnes looked real shocked not shocked. Like, this is a new piece of information. When the twins said, you can bring you can even bring back the dead.
Yeah.
And she said, you can do
You can do that?
And then that was the end of that. What the fuck was that?
Well, like, are we talking about the twins now? Because they basically were the stars of this episode.
No, not yet. I mean, because I think to Manira's point, it's the places where she broke character. Because obviously, you're breaking character right there if you ask that question when you're not supposed to understand what's going on at all. And it harkens back to the conversation that Vision and Wanda were having when he was like, "You're not even trying to hide your magic." Like,
Yeah, she
Agnes
blips
is
the
right
thing
there.
into existence.
Yeah. She's like, Agnes is right there, and Agnes is just sitting there like, do.
Right.
Like she's not even hearing the conversation.
He
And
also
she's
mentions, he was
2 feet
like,
away.
she didn't even notice when they went from babies to 5-year-olds
Right.
in an instant.
Yeah. It was very, I won't say Kimmy Gibbler because we're not there yet, but it was very funny neighbor. Like,
There were a
we've
lot
got new
of
kids.
Full House vibes in this episode. Like
There
the
were
biggest,
a ton.
like clearly it's Full House and Family Ties, because even the opening is from Family Ties.
I don't think it's Full House yet. I think next episode will be Full House.
No, I think there's a lot of jokes about Full House because of the twins, and Elizabeth Olsen is the sister of Mary Kate and Ashley, who are like probably the most famous twins on TV.
I think this
Outside of
episode
Sister.
was Family Ties and Growing Pains. I think
Yeah.
being that we had the ending that we did, next episode will be Full House.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
there's
think that-
definitely a Uncle Jesse bit.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. It's just, it will be interesting, and like in one of the previews, I know that they show Vision like snapping Agnes out of it, and I was assuming that we would see that in this episode, and we didn't. So I think that there's still going to be more to unpack with Agnes, but there was definitely a lot of shady shit this week.
Yeah.
With Agnes, and to Eric's point, I think it then puts you on the fence. of, is she really Agatha Harkness that we've all been like holding on to, or is she just another player in?
I think she might be
big bads?
Agatha Harkness, but it's kind of that thing where they do in the MCU where they'll take a character and like change them around a bit, kind of like they did with the Mandarin. Where it's like, oh, this is what you're expecting of the Mandarin, but this is what we're going to give you.
You were going to say the Mandalorian, weren't you?
I was going to say
he
the
was
Mandalorian.
about to say the Mandalorian. I'm glad he caught himself. All right, so let's, because we've kind of talked around it, but I think it really is important to spend a little bit of time really focusing on Vision this episode, because I mean, I know he's not a human, but I felt so bad for him. Like he is. Oh my gosh! Like just trying to figure it out. So, Manira, for you, what did you get out of poor Vision's plight this week?
I want her to just break down and tell him, like when he was saying, I can't remember out of Westview, and we had just had the credits at the beginning, and they showed Vision as a baby, Vision as a teenager, like. That's never happened. I
was honestly expecting them to do the what the internet has been doing when they show child pictures of Wanda, where they have the child picture of Vision and it's like an old washing machine or like literally a desktop computer.
I thought it was gonna be like a computer or something like that, but like I want her to tell him. I know that will break him when it happens, but I want her to tell him. And I felt really bad for that fight, because when she stopped and said, you have never talked to me this way. And he said, I'm scared. Like, what is happening? I know that it's you. I just talked to Norm. He's scared. This isn't you. You wouldn't do that to these people. And she just keeps telling him, I'm doing this for us. I'm doing this for us.
Vision is also, while he is a robot, he's a synthezoid, so he's learning to be a human. So things like fear, things like emotion, like when he was born, he's just 100% logic. Yeah. So now he's learning emotions, and like things don't make sense. Things are not logical in the way that he's used to.
Yeah. I want to okay, so when Vision's at work and they're getting the internet for the first time, who sent that email? Because it wasn't the trio. That wasn't what they were talking about.
Yeah, I think maybe her radiation and her powers, maybe she's intercepting some things, because it was also weird when Norm starts reading the email, everyone else in the office starts reading the email in sync with him.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Yeah, that was hella creepy.
because, okay, then to that point, when Vision snaps Wanda or snaps Norm out, he says, she's controlling me. It hurts. I need to talk to my family. And Vision says, who? Norm never says it's Wanda. Are we is it a misdirect? Like, are we supposed to think it's Wanda, but really it's somebody else?
I think that's what we thought the whole time. There's definitely somebody else behind the scenes.
It's not just Wanda.
Yeah.
And on top of that, to your point, Manira, when he says to Wanda, like, you're hurting these people, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
I'm not sure that she actually knew what he was talking about.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if she is having this perfect world, I don't think that Wanda would be okay hurting people to get the perfect world. And I think that you can go back to when she came out of Westview. She could have easily just murked everybody there and been like, fuck y'all, let me get back to my perfect life. Yeah. She did not hurt a single person.
No.
So the idea that then she would intentionally hurt 1,000 people inside of this town to keep this like fantasy up kind of seems a little bit out of character. So I think that that's a really good catch on your part.
She played like when she was talking to Monica, oh, you're still here. Like, remember what I did to you? And the fact that Monica didn't back down and actually moved forward, she kind of was like, oh, okay, well, you are an ally. I do know that you were an ally, but you were messing up you said some things and I didn't like it. You made me remember.
I didn't want to talk about those things.
You made me remember about my grief and I didn't like that. So you had to go.
Well, not to mention, like, even Vision, he's starting to realize the fake reality. Yeah. And I think he is on to Agnes as well. You know, not just her breaking character, but like, when the dog comes into play, he walks in the kitchen and he's like, she asks him why he's not looking normal. He's like, well, I had an inclination that someone is going to show up So I put on my, human face, and he's like, yeah, someone's going to show up. And then she knocks and walks in, and he's like, yeah, with exactly what the situation needs.
Yep. Yeah.
And in comes Agnes with, the
big ass doghouse. That was a cute doghouse, by the way.
The doghouse that also, if you look closely, already has the dog's name stenciled in it on the bone.
Yeah.
I did not catch that. So
yeah.
Oof.
What's going on? Poor Vision.
Here, and I think that that's
also,
the hardest thing for me. He's already dead.
Yeah.
So you bring him back, and you're not trying to make him suffer, but you're kind of making him suffer.
Yeah, you're using him like a puppet. I was going to say that the dog is an Easter egg to the Visions run. The dog was a robot, but it was also named Sparky.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that because I have not read the Visions run. All right, so now I think this is a great time, since we're talking about Sparky, to transition to the last group within Westview that we need to talk about, that Eric's been trying to talk about since we started, the twins. Eric, what the hell is going on with these kids?
I think she conjured them into existence, and they're permanent because, I think they also have her powers. Because clearly they're aging themselves up. It's not like before where she's like, oh, well, I'm going to make myself pregnant. I'm going to change the house however I feel. I'm going to, make things color now instead of black and white. Like, they go from infants to 5-year-olds. And then...
Okay, but here's my question for you about that. Because, we talked about this before. We know they're Wiccan in speed.
Yeah.
Do you think that they both have? Because, obviously they've already, to fit the show, they've kind of changed their backstory a little bit, which I'm totally okay with.
Yeah.
But do you think it's that both kids have her powers? Or rather, if you notice, when they age up, they look at each other, and it's almost like Speed telling Wiccan, nah, I'm good, do it. And then Wiccan is
I think they're more a manifestation of her powers. But they might also be a manifestation of the fact that she is losing control, because they are not, she tries to put them to sleep with her powers and nothing happens. And then,
she lost control when she was pregnant, because everything that happened while she was pregnant in that,
with the storks and everything.
The stork, the rain, all of that, she said, oh, my powers did that? I didn't mean to do that. Those weren't your powers, sweetie. Those were your baby's powers.
Well, I have a fan theory that someone gave to me, which when we get to theories, I'll bring that up. But yeah, they're basically doing whatever the fuck they want. But even
problem.
then, even then, it sticks to the same norms of sitcom. Because when she's like, "Oh, well, you guys can't have a dog until you're at least 10." And they look at each other and they age themselves up, but they both know, they're like, oh, no, 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 no. And boom, you have some fucking preteens.
Yeah. Okay.
Those little boys are living their best lives.
I was like, also, really good job on casting, because the preteens looked very much like the 5-year-old versions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the twins picked up on Wanda and Vision's divide. The whole, where's Dad? Oh, it's a Sunday.
Yeah.
Are you guys fighting? Why are
you they're
fighting?
like, where's Dad? He's like, oh, he went to work. She's like, but it's Saturday. You guys told us earlier it was Saturday. She's like, oh, well, he had to go into the office or something.
Yeah, and then the, Daddy needs a break, and they're instantly like, from us?
Mm-hmm. Right. And the way that they said it kind of like, I mean, if he does, we'll give him something to break about.
I think part of that also was kind of the inside joke on sitcoms from the 80s and 90s when kids go from babies to toddlers within 3 or 4 episodes, and then a couple weeks later, by next season, they're different actors because they've aged them up 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say you have to kind of fill in all those, you need to get all the beats that you would get for kids in a teen, in a sitcom from the 80s. Even the title of this one, A Very Special Episode, is about death.
They had a lot of,
Yeah, well, I was going to say, when they do those, back in the 80s, whenever they were, A Very Special Episode, it's, about racism or death or gangs or drugs.
Here's the thing, though, too. When they look at her and they tell her about her powers and the fact that she can bring it back from the dead.
Not to mention they ask her don't you have a brother?
Right. She hasn't done anything in front of them for them to even have a remote inkling of what she's capable of, whether or not she's got siblings. Like,
Right.
she hasn't, none of this. She has pretty much stayed in character
I
for
wonder.
them the whole way through.
Yeah.
How did the kids
Know that?
I
Right.
wonder if they don't, if because they're basically her creations, maybe they see through the perception. Like maybe they see Vision as this robot zombie. So they know that she can bring things back from the dead.
Oh, shit.
Well, then, okay.
Because
So
they
then
seem to
we're
see
going
through
off of
everything
the
else.
fact that we're going off of the fact that Wanda is, like, we saw Zombie Vision. Nobody else sees Zombie Vision like that. That's what
Nobody
we're
else
going
sees
off of,
zombie
right?
vision.
Yeah,
Yep.
but we
Okay,
all know
but
that
then
now
you're
it is the
saying-
real Vision's body. So we
Right.
don't know if she's just putting a perception so that everyone sees him as,
And the kids-
Vision
you're
the
saying
hero.
The
can
kids
see
can
through
see
it.
him
Yeah.
as real dead Vision.
Because they seem
I mean,
to
but
know
that
everything
would make
else.
sense.
Yeah.
Because they seem like, when you think about what the twins are actually doing, they're being little boys. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we found this
Yeah.
dog, and we're playing, and we're doing these things.
Not
They're
to mention
not
like
doing anything that should put them in a position where
Right.
they know these things, unless they can actually
well, I
see
was gonna say,
them.
not to mention Vision is starting to snap out of it too, because one, no one else in town has a pet, and they mentioned that they found him outside and he was crying. The dog doesn't have any collar or anything, which I think is suspicious. Agnes shows up with the doghouse right on schedule, so I think maybe she's taking orders. Like maybe she brought the dog into the hex, as they're calling it now. Shout out to Dr. Darcy. But Vision also mentions, he's like, why does no one else in town have children? Why are there
Right, there
like
are
the
no
playgrounds
children
are
in
always
town.
empty? Yeah, there's no playgrounds. No one's ever in school. What's going on?
But then Wanda says, and I believe her, you think that I am getting these people up, getting these people to their doctor's appointments on time. You think that I'm doing all of that. I don't think that she's, I don't know.
I think
don't know.
subconsciously she might be like, I feel like we're going to see behind the curtain later, and the people that are not directly on screen are like kind of in stasis, just like held together, which is
Yeah.
what Norm was talking about, where they're just in pain.
I don't think
Which
she's
I
doing
think,
it.
yeah, which I think then goes even more to the idea that someone else is controlling the people in
Yeah.
the town for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the thing that there is no children, if you follow everything that we learned this episode, they legit give us a number for the number of people in the town. They're saying that there's 1,000 people in this town, that nobody has gotten out. You don't have a fucking town in the middle of New Jersey with 1,000 people where there are no children. So where the hell are the children? Like,
I think it might
feel
just
like
be
that's a big
that
deal.
thing where like it's kind of also a joke about sitcoms where child actors can be kind of a pain. Because kids have different labor rules where like they can't be on set a certain amount of times. They have to be in school.
I mean, I get that, but then at the same time, in episode 2, when they did the talent show, what was the talent show for?
Yeah.
The talent
the
show
children.
was for the children.
For the children,
But there
yeah.
are no children. So I feel like I never thought the day would come that I would be on the Manera conspiracy train, like sitting in first class. But here I am, because I agree with her.
It's nice here, isn't it?
Something, it's so comfy and cozy.
Yeah.
They make really good drinks in
They
first
really
class,
do.
y'all. But there is something to the lack of children, the twins being able to see everything, and then
them be able to
Wanda
also
saying,
manipulate their own reality.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly, because they are doing, like, listen, these kids, you can't beat them because they're they got superpowers, but these kids need ass whooping. Like,
Yeah.
they're just doing whatever the hell they want.
I hope next episode
What?
we see them like legitimately use their powers individually. Like, do we want to jump into the ending here, or because
Well, I think that this is a great place to transition.
Yeah.
Because we talked about, everybody inside and outside, and literally, it sounds like we could be here all day, and we haven't talked about the way that the show ended and what it means going forward. So I think this is a great place to dive in. I'm not gonna say spoiler alerts, because if you're watching this, then you should have watched the damn episode. So
yeah,
you
as I say,
know
we've
what
talked
we're
about the
talking
other
about.
20 plus minutes of the show, so we're literally
Exactly.
talking about the last 45 seconds.
The last 45 seconds where Pietro shows up at the door, knocking on the door, to Eric's point, like Uncle Jesse, like, hey, y'all, I'm here. No hug for your bro.
Your
And-
long lost bro.
And I think that the thing that
Well,
I
she
love,
mentions it to the twins when they're like, "You have a brother, right?" And she's like, "Oh, well, he lives very far away, and it
very
makes me
far
sad."
away. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
okay, here's the thing. He says that he doesn't say you have a brother, right? He says, "Mom, do you have
Do you have a
do you
brother?"
have a sibling?"
Yeah.
And she says, "Yes, I have a brother." And she
then-
should have said, I did. If
Right,
we were
and
I
she
don't
talking
think
about
she
that.
wanted to, especially after what they had been through with the dog. Like,
Yeah.
she didn't want to bring up more death.
Well, they
I
hadn't
think
been,
that
they
it-
hadn't been through it with the dog yet.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Right.
I think she was thinking about it after they were like, well, you can bring stuff back from the dead.
Yeah.
And I think that what I loved was in the moment where he comes on screen, and at first we don't see who it is, right? And then we see who it is, and then Dr. Darcy is like,
Yeah, we just see the silver hair.
yeah, and I lost.
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
I
spoilers
love this.
aplenty. It is Evan Peters who played Quicksilver in the X-Men universe, in X-Men Days of Future Past, and was he in Days of Future Past? Yeah, Days of Future Past and Apocalypse. He wasn't in Dark Phoenix, was he?
No, I think he was in Dark Phoenix for like a second.
Was he? Okay. But
think he was.
you know,
I
didn't
try
see
not
it.
to remember
Right, I was
anything
gonna
about
say,
that
I didn't
garbage
see it, guys,
movie.
but I think he was in it for a second.
yeah, okay, yeah, I think he was in. He was also he was a quick cameo in Deadpool 2, the scene where all the X-Men are.
Yep.
But one of the things that I noticed immediately was the last place that we saw him was in the 80s. So he's also wearing his same jacket, which I believe in Apocalypse, which takes place in the 80s. He was wearing that same leather jacket, but that's also a callback to like Uncle Jesse, the cool uncle who shows up. He's like, "Oh, I'm wearing a leather jacket and some motorcycle boots."
Everything about it screamed Uncle Jesse.
And
I think-
Tony Danza. He had a bit
Yeah.
of a,
Yeah.
who's the boss?
Yep.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, big who's the boss vibes.
Yeah.
Because he
Yeah,
even
and
comes
I-
in and he's got that like New Jersey accent, like, "Hey, baby girl, baby sister,
yeah.
no hug for your long lost brother." And I was
Yeah,
like,
it
"Where's this accent coming from?" It's a little over the top, but I kind of love it.
It was a little weird, but I also loved it. And I think that, you know, on top of the fact that I actually just really like Evan Peters in this role, I think it's a good role for him, and I actually enjoyed it.
It's
in the movie in
not-
this role.
It's not Aaron Taylor Johnson who played him in Age of Ultron, so
And I didn't like him.
I liked him a little bit.
I didn't like him as they went on to play husband and wife in Godzilla. And so that took me completely out. I didn't like that at all.
I think that this opens that door that I have been waiting literally years to open, to have that cross of, you know, some of the actors in the Fox MCU really blending in with the Disney Plus.
That's not the
or
MCU,
Disney-
the Fox. That's just that's the X-Men universe.
Technically, well, yes, I know it's the X-Men universe, but it is Marvel, so let's not do them dirty.
In
They
association with
should
Marvel.
Technically be considered
Potato
part
fucking
of the-
potato. We've got mutants. Like, we've got mutants.
Okay,
Fucking MCU.
here's-
Why is no one
Thank
talking
you,
about
Manera.
this?
No. Here's where that goes, because now I will explain the fan theory that a friend of mine, Darren, aka Dern, yo Dern, basically what he brought up to me was that like, what Hydra did with the Mind Stone, maybe they didn't give her powers. Maybe they gave her power is basically to kind of absorb power. And when she was on the battlefield during Endgame, she had all 6 Infinity Stones there. And she has, like, throughout the course of the show so far, has shown that she is wielding all 6 powers. She's manipulated time. She's manipulated reality. She has manipulated people's minds. She's going through the whole, through the gauntlet of powers. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe it might be that thing, like when you can't remember what a dead person's, what their face looks like, maybe she pulled from another reality. And that's where Evan Peters comes in.
Okay, so then we think that Wanda did this? Because I don't.
Yeah, I think she did I think she did in a way, because who else could pull from a complete other universe? But at the same time, like, I don't think she was ready to see her legitimate brother, who she knows is dead.
I think the twins did it because they heard mommy and daddy fighting downstairs, and mommy sounded sad, and they know that mommy's sad because
That
her
also
brother
makes
isn't brought
sense.
here.
Well,
I
yeah,
think
and
the
they
twins
and
did
she
it.
knows that they know that he lives far away.
I'm loving this first class ticket right now.
Yeah.
But Darren, I do like that theory. I'm gonna keep
I
an
think
eye on
he's
that.
on something.
The only thing that I would wonder
Going
is
through
like
stones.
how where did they get Evan Peters though?
Yeah.
Because they're not from this reality.
Yeah.
But maybe that's it though.
Yeah.
Maybe because they're not from this reality.
And they know his name is. They don't know his name is Pietro though, because I was gonna say maybe they cast from anybody by the name of Pietro and just pulled him, but they don't know his name, so that wouldn't work. But I do think it's the twin somehow. I don't know how though.
And
I wouldn't
feel
doubt
like
that.
It matters. I feel like it matters because if it didn't matter, Dr. Darcy would not have literally said.
Well, because she exists in the regular world, she knows that Pietro was someone else.
I know, but how often in cinema?
You mean for us? It matters for us.
Right. Yes. Because how often in cinema in general, someone dies, someone moves on, they recast, and they never address. I mean,
Rhodey.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
Yeah.
Rhodey. Like, there's been so many instances where a popular character has been recast and it's never addressed.
Can I say why I hope it's
went
cast?
out of their way.
Can I say why I hope it's recast?
Well,
why?
Yeah.
Because
but all
mutants?
I was going to say was,
No.
I think that there is a reason, which I think Manira's going to give her theory on it. There is a reason that they want us to know that this was intentional. Manira, what's your theory?
Well, in the Fox situation, Pietro knew who his dad was, and his dad's still fucking living. I think they're bringing back Magneto. I will lose my whole entire shit if Magneto is brought into this show.
Well, no, because in the MCU, they knew who their parents were. Their parents died in the bombing.
No. I mean, her real dad. I mean,
see, that's
her
the thing.
Comic fucking dad. That's
we don't know. We don't know if there's any back history to like maybe their parents in Sokovia were not their real parents.
That's why I think we don't. That's why I think we got Evan Peters and not Aaron.
It would be nice if they just snuck in
Evan Peters' dad was Magneto.
Yeah.
Full stop in the movie. He knows that.
Yeah, it was one of the good points. The one of the few good things about X-Men Apocalypse.
I think that they're going to bring back Magneto. I think that the reason that we have Evan Peters' Quicksilver is to bring in another very special, you don't speak to dad anymore. I know, because my dad's dead. Dad's not dead. In Walk Mag fucking Nito.
Okay. While I am very much for that theory, I don't want Fassbender. I want what's his name?
No, if it's Ian McKellen,
Yeah,